Hello parents, this video is going to be about sensory issues in children. Will all the sensory issues be considered as a marker of autism? Definitely no. We can see sensory issues in kids even otherwise also. We can see them in ADHD children, we can see them in borderline intelligence children, or even those children who are environmentally deprived. I mean, they were not growing up in the optimal environment, or they were too much being brought up in an artificial environment, or these kind of city kind of or metro kind of lifestyles where they are not exposed to nature at all. So we can see sensory issues even in them. However, sensory issues are one of the important characteristic of autism. So we need to know a bit of these. So in sensory issues, first, before beginning, what is sensory issues? What are the senses? We all know that we have 5 senses. We have been reading since childhood, which are like taste, touch, smell, vision and hearing. Apart from these 5 senses, there are another 3 senses which are very important. One is vestibular sense, which means the sense of balance. For example, you are on the swing. So this sense is very active. Which way are you swinging? How forcefully are you swinging? What is happening to your body? How to maintain balance, etc. The second sense is proprioception. This is the sensation of the joints. For example, you are jumping, or you are skipping, or you are hopping. How does your body know how much you should jump and how well you should land, and what is the kind of feeling that you are having inside is a proprioception. Or for example, you are pushing a heavy suitcase or a trolley. So this is also one kind of proprioception. Or for example, you are running and throwing the ball in cricket. This is also one proprioception. You know how forcefully you have to do, which joints you have to use, how much you have to throw. This is all proprioception. Or you are catching a ball. That is also proprioception. You are gauging how forcefully it is coming, what should I do, which muscles I should use, how should I take the catch. So this is all proprioception. And the final sense is interoception. This is little uncommon for most of you. So interoception is nothing but the perceiving of our own internal sensations from the body organs. Like for example, when there is hunger, you feel like there is some hunger pangs in your tummy. If you are thirsty, that is one different kind of sensation in your throat, like a parched kind of tongue, etc. If you are anxious, your heartbeat is really going fast and you can sense it. If there is an urge to go to or use the washroom, that is a different kind of sense. So all these kind of senses will form, if they are developing very normally, naturally, we have a very smooth life, day in, day out in our life activities. But what if these senses are not developing appropriately, especially in a growing child, like a child less than 3 years? Then it can definitely affect their overall development and especially their speech and socio-personal interaction with the others. Either these senses are overdeveloped, or I can say oversensitive or hypersensitive, or they are undersensitive or hyposensitive. So these problems are labeled under sensory processing disorders. In this again we have 3 categories like sensory modulation, sensory discrimination and sensory based motor. We need not go into too much of details about each, how is they technically what are the differences and all, but on a rough understanding of each should be there. So the most common problem which we encounter is sensory modulation. So we will restrict ourselves to sensory modulation. The rest of the things like praxis and all, or planning movements, etc., that we can see in a separate episode. So in the sensory modulation disorder, what exactly are we saying is, I will give you an example. So you take a person, he prefers to listen to very soft kind of music. He cannot tolerate any loud kind of rap or pop kind of music, and even if he goes to pub or any place where they are playing this loud music, he comes out of it. He says, I am going to get a headache. So this person is hypersensitive to some kind of sounds. On the other hand, there could be a person who is enjoying this kind of music, and the car also, the volume is so high, like the whole car is shaking or his room is all vibrating. So he is hyposensitive to sound. That's why he is enjoying high sounds, or maybe we can say he is seeking loud sounds. Like that, we will take an example in another sense. There is a person who always eats spicy things. Even if it is a normal dish also, he wants it to be spicy, like even the chutney in the dosa should be very spicy. Whereas there is another person who is always eating bland food. For him, even the fried rice or the biryani should be very bland, or you are putting ghee in the biryani and you are eating. So these are preferences. One is hypersensitive to even the spicy food, so he prefers to avoid it. The other person is seeking, he wants spicy things. Third sense we will see, vestibular sense. You go to these exhibitions and you can see that there is a giant wheel, and few people are like, they are enjoying it like anything. Even when it is spinning in the full speed, they are shouting, but you can see from their face that they are actually enjoying this sense of sudden spinning. Whereas there is another person who, even looking at the giant wheel, he is feeling giddy or dizzy. So one person is hyposensitive, that is why he is enjoying. The other person is hypersensitive, that is why he is avoiding. The fourth one we can see, balance sense. The vestibular is balance, the other one is like proprioception. One person always wants to play games which are having, you know, this high activity, like jumpings and skippings and hopping and running and all this. So he is kind of hyposensitive to this joint movement or sensations, so he is seeking it. Whereas the other person prefers to stay quiet, he is not so actively interested in these active kind of activities. So maybe he is hypersensitive, so he wants to avoid it. Like that we have in every sense, even in the visual sense we have, in the smell preferences. For example, some people like these perfumes which are so strong. For the other people it is like, even if they go into the lift which was used by other people and the smell is coming, they cannot tolerate it. So one is hypo, one is hyper. So these are the sensory preferences. Till a point when it is reasonably in the normal range, okay, some dislike, some like, everybody will have. But if it is going beyond that and it is affecting your day in day out activities, then we call them as sensory issues. So for a child, how can these issues look like? You can divide into two, like how we said. One is sensory seekers, one is sensory avoiders. Sensory avoiders will be typically like, they cannot tolerate loud sounds. So anybody is crying, loud crackers, mixie, vacuum, any claps or sudden shout or screams, they cannot tolerate. They are closing their eyes. They may get really upset and they are crying for about 5 to 10 minutes after that sound got over also. So this is, they are hypersensitive to auditory stimulus. If they are hypersensitive to vestibular, they get very scared of these swings or merry-go-rounds or activities in which they have to balance themselves, like tunnel walks, or they are on the shaking tunnels. If they are supposed to walk or anything, they are very much scared. So this is vestibular hypersensitivity. The third one is olfactory hypersensitivity. They are strongly avoiding so many smells. They don't enter few rooms at all. Even in the puja room and all, they may not enter because of the smell, or they may never enter the kitchen because of certain smell, or they may never enter even bathrooms because they smell differently. So these are olfactorily hypersensitive. Tactile hypersensitive is like, even light touch they are not able to tolerate. For example, if you kiss them also, they are like wiping it off, or even a drop of water falls on their body, they are doing this. Little bit even we will wipe, but they are doing it like vigorously, like till the point it is gone. There are some kids who cannot tolerate water on others also, they will wipe them. And they cannot touch anything which is like soft, mushy, like slime, clay, paste, foods which are sticky, or anything, glue, gum, cream, body cream, anything. The moment it touches, you can see the visible reaction in their face. They are like, no, 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 no. So they are tactile hypersensitive. The same child could also be averse to brushing, hair cutting, nail clipping, and you can see even combing for that matter. The moment you are putting comb in their hair, you can see that visible reaction on their face. So these are all hypersensitive behaviors. They tend to do what? They will try to avoid them. Just like us, we are hyper reacting to something, what do? We try to avoid them. So they will try to avoid all these circumstances, to a point that if it is interfering with their daily activities, see, even washing, brushing, using soap, putting a cream, eating your food is becoming a big issue, then definitely it is a matter of concern. The same way hyposensitive people will be probably like a seekers, like they want to spin, even 50 times they are spinning, they are not getting giddy at all. They are on the slide or swing, they are doing it hundreds of times and real fast, and they are not getting dizzy. They are using these tactile hyposensitive kids will be there, they will be chewing all kind of things in their mouth, even their own clothes, blankets, everything, edible, non-edible, everything they are putting in the mouth and they are chewing it off. Or if they are hyposensitive to say touch, they are coming and falling on people, not even realizing that you are touching the other people so closely, etc. They always want to cuddle and snuggle and all these kind of things. Or if they are like hyposensitive to say sounds, then even the loud sound is coming, they are not bothered, or they want to hear things at a very loud sound, this kind of thing. Or they are visually hyposensitive, then they are playing with different kinds of light, they really like LED strips, etc. They can watch for hours together, or anything which is falling, they are constantly looking at it. So these are all kind of seeking the visual stimulus. Or textures, they could be seeking the textures, like they are always doing this thing with the sand or anything, pulses or whatever you give them, they are crushing it and seeing for the texture. So they are seeking that sense. So either they could be sensory seekers or they could be sensory avoiders. Now are they only seen in autism? Not really, but given the two cases, seekers and avoidance, we give more weightage to avoidance. If you see somebody who is struggling with the sounds and the vestibular movements and swings and all to a significant extent, that is a very important point to note. But whereas seeking, we see even in autism or even otherwise also quite a lot of kids, especially in this era when people are getting environmentally deprived of natural play or natural lifestyle. These kind of sensory seeking behaviors are hugely seen, and a good thing about it is easy to control sensory seeking behavior, or we can say it is easy to divert them from sensory seeking behaviors to a better pattern, whereas sensory avoidance is little difficult because that is a deep rooted problem. So this much understanding if we have about sensory issues, then we can proceed on to the next step of now what to do. Okay, they have sensory issues, so now what to do, or how will they integrate it into a normal fashion.